Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm joined by Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning.
H&M showing a rebound and rebuilding its confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So, margins and profit for H&M were way ahead of expectations, actually. And so the market was very, very happy about that. And shares really shot up this morning. So the reason why it did so well is because it had really good cost control. So that was one of the main reasons. But it's also because it really refocused on its core H&M brand. And it really was ramping up advertising for that core H&M brand. And that's really, really helped. And it helped to kind of offset what are otherwise kind of really big and real challenges for that retail sector. Of course, the really weak consumer confidence that we still see across Europe, but also tariffs, of course, and that tariff threat. This is the second consecutive quarter where results actually exceeded expectations. So it seems that this strategy of really focusing on marketing is paying off. And if we look at what's happened across that retail sector, for other companies, Inditex, which owns Zara, also offered really a positive outlook earlier this month, saying that autumn sales had started much better than expected. But then if we look at the UK, Next had offered quite a negative outlook and said that UK consumer confidence was still really low and that was really going to weigh on profit going forward. So it seems that the key variable here is exposure to the UK. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Okay, well, in terms of tariffs, you mentioned it there with H&M. News that President Trump is potentially going to probe robotics and pharmaceuticals, and that could maybe lead to more levies. I mean, there aren't that many robotics companies, a couple in Europe, really big ones, but also pharmaceuticals, that slightly larger device makers like Philips. So what are we looking at this morning?
Yeah, absolutely. So Philips was weaker this morning, but then also other companies within that sector. So companies like Smith & Nephew, like Convatec, like Siemens Healthineers. And so, as you mentioned, the Trump administration is trying to set the stage really for tariffs on, as you mentioned, robotics, industrial machinery and those medical devices, with the goal, of course, being to kind of encourage domestic productions for those industry. And that's because of concern about US over-reliance on foreign countries for things like syringes, for example, catheters or whatever. And so the Department of Commerce now has 270 days to deliver the policy recommendations. So the tariffs are not there yet, but obviously the threat of that has really driven those shares lower across those sectors.
Meanwhile, the automakers are bouncing a little bit higher because the auto imports, the agreement to go to 15% has now been implemented and it's retroactive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Volkswagen, Stellantis, BMW, Renault, all were up today on the back of that. So as you mentioned, the lower tariffs of 15% are now in effect. And so Bloomberg Intelligence estimated that Porsche, Audi, Mercedes and BMW will gain a combined 1.3 billion euros in profit and cash boost in the second half of the year because of it being applied retrospectively. Another boost as well that's driving the shares forward is that the car sales in Europe rose for the second month in a row in August, and there was really strong demand for electric vehicles and for hybrid models as well. So that is really good news for those European car makers that have been trying to compete with Chinese manufacturers.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.